All right, chapter 11, winners. Then came the weekend before the science fair. Willie and I spent all Saturday and Sunday finishing our posters. We planned what we would say to the judges. We planned how to explain our conclusion. We also had to be ready to explain our method. That's the part where we tested our idea. Judges can ask any questions they want about any part of the project. You know what you have to be. You have to be a know-it-all, at least about your own project. Unless you have a good partner like Willie, then you can be a know about half. See what they did there? So instead of knowing all of it, you just have to know about half because your partner will know the other half. That's pretty funny. Willie and I were ready. We even remembered to buy 4 new batteries so the magnets would work just right. On the Tuesday of the science fair, we brought our project to the school gym at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That was part of the rules. We had an hour and a half to get everything ready. Then the judging would start at 6:30. The gym was a lot like a pot of water on a stove. The whole place felt like it was humming and bubbling and getting ready to boil over. Kids were everywhere, and so were parents. Both my dad and Willie's dad came along to help us hang up our posters. Willie's dad had gone to an office store for us. He got us one of those tall cardboard fold-up things. It was just the right size to hold our 3 posters. There were numbered tables in rows up and down the floor, and there was a list of names by the door. Next to every name was a number, and ours was 45. Table number 45 was a good one, right along the back wall, except that it was next to table number 46. And table 46 was Kevin Young's table. It was hard not to look at Kevin's stuff. He had 3 posters, just like ours, except his didn't look like ours. He had used markers to write the biggest words on the posters. We had used colored pencils and crayons to make our drawings. He had written out words by hand. We had written out our words by hand, not Kevin. All the writing on his posters had been printed out from a computer, and so had his pictures. All the papers and letters and pictures had been glued onto Kevin's posters. We had glued some things to our posters, too. We had some drawings and some great pictures of a junkyard electromagnet holding up a crushed car. It's hard to glue stuff right, so some of our pictures had little bumps and ridges on them, and so did our writing papers. Not Kevin's. I don't know how he did it, but every picture and all his writing was glued perfectly flat. My dad looked at Kevin's posters and he nodded at Kevin's dad and said, "Great posters." Kevin's dad looked a lot like Kevin. He had the same red hair and blue eyes. He smiled at my dad and said, "Thanks. We worked pretty hard on them." See that? See how Kevin's dad said we? I looked around at the other projects near us, and most of them looked like grown-ups had helped too. It didn't seem very fair. All of a sudden, I wished that I had let my dad help us, because deep down, I still thought it would be nice to win the Bluntium 12 computer. Kevin looked over at our stuff once or twice, and I thought I saw him smile a bit, but it wasn't a nice smile. It was a put-down smile. But we had too much to do to think about Kevin for very long. We got our magnets wired up. We got our cans of soup and tuna stacked up. We laid our notebooks and our method records. And when everything was set up, we had 45 minutes left over, so our dads took us out for hamburgers and chocolate shakes. The food was good, but Willie and I were pretty nervous. At 6:30, the judges started. There were 6 of them, science and math teachers from the junior high school. First, they all just walked together up and down the rows of tables. Then they started at table number 72, the last table. We had to wait and wait and wait. It took a long time for the judges to get to our row. Then it was another 10 minutes before they got to Kevin at table 46. It was good to hear the judges ask questions before it was our turn, and Kevin was good at answering them. He really was. He had done this experiment about making ants learn how to go through a maze. He wanted to show that if ants can't smell, they get lost. Ants leave something like an odor where they walk, and if one ant goes through the maze, it leaves a trail so the others can follow. So after one ant went through the maze, Kevin let another one go, and it followed the same path. Then he painted the maze with lemon juice, let it dry, and let another ant go. The second ant got lost. So Kevin proved his hypothesis was right. It was a good project, even if Kevin did get help from his dad. Then it was our turn. The lady judge started. She asked Willie to explain what we wanted to prove, while Willie pointed to our posters and told how electromagnets work and how we wanted to see what made the bigger difference, more wire or more power. He was great. Willie smiled and sounded like he was having fun, because he was. And I could tell the judges liked that. Then it was my turn. I had to explain our method. I took it slow, step by step, and while I talked, Willie hooked up the red magnet to 2 batteries and lifted up 2 cans of tuna. Then he added 2 more batteries and picked up 4 cans. Then Willie took over talking, and I hooked up 2 batteries to the blue magnet, the one that had more wire on it, and the 2 batteries and the blue magnets could pick up 4 cans, and with 4 batteries, it could pick up 8 cans of tuna. I could tell the judges liked what we were doing. Our results were different from what we had thought they would be, and we explained it in our conclusion just right. We used scientific method. It was a good experiment. Kevin was watching too, but I couldn't tell what he was thinking. He didn't smile or frown. He hardly even blinked. Then it was over, and it felt great. I looked at Willie, and he had a smile on his face. He had that smile on his face, the really big one. And right then, I knew I didn't care if we won anything or not. The judges moved on. Then it was time for more waiting, a lot more waiting. So Willie and I went to look around. There was a lot of neat stuff to see. There were projects about cameras, about fruit, earthworms, carbon dioxide from plants, fruit flies, fossils, hot air balloons, soap bubbles, different kinds of sand, and a really great one on electric guitar sounds, and tons more. We found Marcia's table, and we didn't go over. That's because she looked sad, kind of mad too, like she might start crying or yelling or something. Her posters looked great, and there was this upside down cake pan inside a box with a window cut on the side. The pan was hanging above a little light bulb. I could tell from the posters the pan had something to do with grass growing from it. Willie said, "What's wrong with her?" I shrugged and didn't say anything, but I thought I knew why. Maybe it's because if you always felt like you have to be the best, it's hard. Because a lot of the time, somebody else does just as well or even better. Anyways, we kept walking. We looked at all the 3rd grade projects, and after we saw them, I knew which one was going to win. There wasn't any question about it. After an hour and a half later, it was time for the announcements. Everyone went into the auditorium. Willie and I sat in the 10th row, and our dads behind us. Mr. Lenny Cordo was there with all the computer boxes were stacked up on the stage. It was pretty exciting. The judges announced the 5th grade winners first. Ellen Stone won the grand prize. She had done this project about electric guitar sounds. She had done the project about the electric guitar sounds. The 2nd place went to Mark Dixon for a project about temperature and soap bubbles. The 4th grade winner was Charles Leclerc. He had studied the hardness of different kinds of rocks. The 2nd place went to Amy Martin's project about veins in leaves. Then it was time for the 3rd grade. My dad put his hand on my shoulder and gave a little squeeze. And the winner was Pete Morris, just like I knew it would be. Pete had done his project about insect eggs and how different daylight hours make the eggs hatch. He had found some praying mantis eggs. He put some lights on a timer and had made the eggs hatch 2 months early. It was like he had tricked them with the light, and there was a big glass box with about 20 baby praying mantises walking around with their little green legs. The great thing was that Pete had started his project back in October. That was almost 3 months before Mrs. Karp had announced it, the science fair. He wasn't doing the project to try to be better or smarter than anyone else. He didn't do it to try to win a new computer. He did it because he really liked to figure something out. Like I said, Pete's a science kid. Willie and I were standing up and clapping for Pete. Then the head judge said, and the second prize for third grade goes to Phil Willis and Jake Drake for their project on electromagnets. Then they called all of us onto stage, and we had to shake hands with the judges, and then with Mrs. Carp and Mr. Lenny Cordo. And Willie and I each got a little silver trophy that said second place annual Dupree Elementary School Science Fair. It was the best thing I've ever won. And it wouldn't have been half as fun without Willie there smiling his biggest smile at me. We went back to the gym to take our project apart. Kevin and his dad were at table 46. His dad looked kind of mad. But Kevin didn't. He said, "Nice trophy." I said, "Thanks. I thought your project was really good." Kevin said, "I guess. Too bad you didn't win first place." I said, "Yeah." But really, I didn't think it was too bad. I was happy with second place, and here's why. You see, Pete's project was the best. He would have won no matter what. And second place? Maybe I could have won second place all by myself, but I don't think so. Willie did a lot to make the project better. Plus, we had fun. Plus, we did it ourselves. The best part about the science fair was that suddenly it was all over. I didn't have to think about it anymore. I didn't have to keep track of all those papers and batteries and pieces of wire. When we took everything apart, Willie kept the blue magnet, and I took the one with the red wire. Whenever I open my junk drawer now, there it is. But the trophy is on my shelf. I keep it there to remind myself that there's one thing I never want to be again, ever, and that's Jake Drake Know-It-All. Oh, what an awesome book. Cool. Well, I hope you enjoyed this story. Boys and girls, you do have a little assessment that goes along with it, so make sure that you take that. And remember, during your assessment, if you'd like to use your book, you are welcome to do so. All right. Great job, third graders.